The storm that welcomed Nikola Tesla into the world seemed to understand what kind of child was being born that July night in 1856. As lightning tore through the Serbian sky above the village of Smiljan, illuminating the modest house where Nikola Tesla labored, the midwife crossed herself and declared the child would be cursed by darkness. But Nikola, exhausted yet defiant, gazed at her newborn son and whispered that he would be a child of light. Neither woman could have imagined how prophetically both had spoken. In that remote mountain village where electricity meant only the terrifying flash of summer storms, young Nikola grew surrounded by invisible forces that whispered to him alone. His mother, Juka, fascinated him more than any childhood game. Though she had never learned to read, her mind contained blueprints for dozens of small inventions, improved looms, better churns, clever mechanical devices that made village life easier. She could recite epic poems word for word after hearing them once, a gift that flowed into her son's consciousness like an electrical current finding its path. By age 5, Tesla discovered he possessed his mother's extraordinary memory, but amplified to an almost supernatural degree. He could visualize objects in 3 dimensions, rotating them in his mind, examining every surface and internal mechanism without ever touching pen to paper. But this gift came wrapped in shadow. Blinding flashes of light would strike without warning, accompanied by visions so vivid he couldn't distinguish them from reality. His parents watched helplessly as their son pressed his palms against his eyes, trying to escape images that blazed behind his eyelids with the intensity of lightning. Winter evenings brought Tesla's first true teacher, in the form of the family cat, Macaque. As the boy stroked the animal's fur in the darkness of their home, blue sparks danced between his fingers, crackling with a life of their own. While his siblings laughed at the pre-tea tie lights, Tesla sat transfixed, understanding somehow that these tiny bolts held secrets about the fundamental nature of the universe. He would spend hours generating these miniature storms, feeling the static charge build along his skin, wondering why some materials produced more sparks than others. His father, Milutin, an Orthodox priest, observed his son's obsessions with growing alarm. The boy showed no interest in scripture, but could spend entire days watching water flow over the mill wheel, sketching strange diagrams in the dirt, or staring at seemingly empty air as if decoding messages written in an invisible language. Milutin spoke of duty to God and community, while Tesla dreamed of harnessing the power he sensed thrumming through all living things. The tension between father and son charged the household atmosphere, like the approach of those summer storms. At the Higher Real Gymnasium in Karlovac, Tesla's abilities transformed from family curiosity to public spectacle. His mathematics professor, Martin Sekulic, initially accused him of cheating when the boy solved complex calculus problems instantly, never showing his work. Tesla couldn't explain that he saw the solutions appear complete in his mind, floating in space like architectural drawings. Only after multiple tests, with Tesla isolated and monitored, did Professor Sekulic accept that his student operated by different laws than ordinary minds. The moment that would redirect Tesla's entire existence came during a physics demonstration. Professor Poschel brought out a static electricity generator, and as the wheels spun and sparks flew between the terminals, something fundamental shifted in Tesla's consciousness. The other students saw a scientific curiosity, but Tesla experienced revelation. The invisible forces he'd sensed all his life suddenly had form and purpose. He understood with absolute certainty that his destiny lay in decoding and controlling these mysterious energies. His photographic memory, inherited from his mother but magnified beyond her abilities, became both his greatest tool and his heaviest burden. Tesla could memorize entire textbooks in single readings, absorbing languages, mathematics, and engineering principles with frightening speed. But the same mechanism that stored useful information also trapped every disturbing image, every moment of loss, every flash of those strange visions that plagued him. His mind became a library where wonderful discoveries sat beside haunting memories, all preserved in perfect, inescapable detail. Years later, during a walk through Budapest City Park with his friend Anatol Szigeti, Tesla experienced the epiphany that would revolutionize human civilization. As sunset painted the sky, he began reciting Goethe's Faust from memory, the words flowing as naturally as breath. Suddenly, mid-verse, he stopped walking. Siggety watched in alarm as Tesla stood frozen, eyes wide but unseeing, trembling as if touched by an invisible hand. Then Tesla grabbed a stick and began drawing frantically in the sand, explaining in a voice charged with excitement how he could see it. Rotating magnetic fields, spinning in perfect synchronization, creating power from motion itself. The principle of alternating current, which would light the world, had been born in that moment of poetic reverie. The diagrams in the sand represented more than electrical theory. They were Tesla's declaration of independence from the limitations that bound ordinary inventors. While others built through trial and error, Tesla's designs emerged complete from his mental laboratory, tested and perfected in the realm of pure thought before ever touching physical materials. His obsession with the number 3, which began in these early years, wove through his daily existence like a numerical spell. Before entering any building, he had to circle it 3 times. His handkerchiefs came in stacks of 3. Meals required 3 napkins. This compulsion, far from being mere superstition, seemed connected to his understanding of fundamental universal patterns, the same mathematical harmonies that governed his electrical innovations. Tesla's sensory sensitivity bordered on the supernatural. He could hear a fly landing on a table rooms away, feel the vibrations of distant footsteps through floorboards, detect changes in electromagnetic fields that remained invisible to everyone else. This hypersensitivity made ordinary life almost unbearable. The ticking of a watch 3 rooms away could keep him awake all night. Yet it also allowed him to diagnose electrical problems through sound alone, listening to transformers and generators as a musician might tune an instrument. The shadow that darkened all his achievements was the memory of his older brother Dane, whose death in a horse-riding accident when Tesla was 7 created a wound that never healed. Dane had been the family's golden child, handsome, confident, everything Tesla felt he wasn't. Their parents' grief transformed into impossible expectations for the surviving son, as if Tesla had to live both his life and his brother's. Every achievement, every breakthrough carried the weight of trying to be worthy of 2 lives instead of 1. His first professional position at the Central Telegraph Office in Budapest revealed how differently Tesla's mind processed electrical phenomena. While other engineers consulted manuals and performed calculations, Tesla would simply listen to the equipment and know what was wrong. His supervisor, Tivadar Puskas, watched in amazement as Tesla improved their systems through what seemed like pure intuition, adjusting frequencies and modifying circuits based on feelings rather than formulas. Word of the young engineer who could speak the language of electricity spread through European technical circles. Tesla's repairs didn't just fix problems, they transformed equipment, making it run more efficiently than its original designers had thought possible. He seemed to understand electricity not as a force to be controlled, but as a partner to be consulted. In his small Budapest apartment, Tesla's dreams filled with visions that would have seemed like madness to his contemporaries. He saw messages traveling through the Earth itself, invisible signals connecting every corner of the globe. He imagined power transmitted without wires, lighting cities through the air itself. These weren't fantasies, but glimpses of technologies he felt certain he could create, if only he could find the resources and freedom to pursue them. The stories reaching Europe about Thomas Edison's laboratories in America ignited Tesla's imagination. Here was a place where electrical dreams became reality, where innovation was currency, where a man with revolutionary ideas about alternating current might finally find the support to change the world. Tesla's decision to emigrate wasn't driven by ambition for wealth or fame, but by the burning need to birth the visions that consumed his waking hours and invaded his dreams. As Tesla prepared to cross the Atlantic, he carried more than just his few possessions and letter of introduction. He brought a mind that had already solved problems the world didn't yet know existed, blueprints for machines that existed only in the palace of his thoughts, and an understanding of electrical forces that would soon bring him into direct conflict with the very man he hoped would be his mentor. The boy who had watched lightning split Serbian skies was about to meet the Wizard of Menlo Park, and their collision would illuminate the coming century in ways neither could imagine. Tesla's arrival in New York Harbor on that June morning in 1884 should have been triumphant, but instead he stood at the rail counting his remaining coins, 4 cents that represented his entire fortune in this new world. The letter of introduction to Thomas Edison, carefully folded in his breast pocket, felt heavier than gold. Charles Batchelor, Edison's former assistant in Paris, had written words that would echo through history. "I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." As the Statue of Liberty emerged from the morning mist, Tesla gripped that letter like a talisman, unaware that the man he hoped would nurture his visions would instead become his greatest adversary. The laboratory on Pearl Street assaulted Tesla's hypersensitive senses with its chaos of sparking dynamos, acrid chemical smells, and the constant chatter of Edison's muckers, the loyal assistants who executed their master's endless stream of ideas. Direct current generators lined the walls like mechanical soldiers, each one humming with the inefficient song that Tesla's alternating current could transform into a symphony. He watched the workers constantly replacing burned-out components, saw the massive copper cables required to carry power even short distances, and understood immediately why Edison's system could never illuminate more than a few city blocks. The future Tesla envisioned required electricity that could travel hundreds of miles without losing its strength, dancing through transformers that would step voltages up and down like an elegant mathematical equation made manifest. Their first meeting crackled with more tension than any electrical circuit. Edison, stocky and practical, his clothes stained with chemicals and machine oil, studied the tall, impeccably dressed Serbian with the suspicious eyes of a street fighter sizing up a rival. Tesla, speaking in his precise accented English, tried to explain his polyphase system, watching Edison's expression shift from curiosity to irritation as the implications became clear. Here stood a man who didn't just want to improve Edison's direct current system. He wanted to replace it entirely. The Wizard of Menlo Park, who had built his empire on practical inventions that could be sold immediately, faced a theoretician who spoke of invisible rotating magnetic fields and mathematical harmonies. "You're a poet," Edison finally said, the words sounding like an insult in his gruff voice. "We deal in practical matters here." Yet something in Tesla's absolute certainty, perhaps, or Batchelor's unprecedented recommendation, made Edison offer him a position. The challenge Edison presented seemed straightforward enough. Improve the efficiency of his direct current generators and earn $50,000, a fortune that would fund Tesla's own research for years. Tesla accepted with the naive enthusiasm of a man who believed that genius recognized genius, that scientific truth would naturally triumph over commercial interests. He threw himself into the work with an intensity that amazed even Edison's most dedicated employees. While others went home to their families, Tesla remained in the laboratory, his tall figure hunched over generators that he dismantled and rebuilt in his mind before ever touching a tool. His fingers, stained with oil and copper dust, moved with the precision of a concert pianist as he rewound coils, adjusted commutators, and redesigned components that Edison's team had considered perfected. 18-hour days blurred into one continuous stream of innovation as Tesla applied his theoretical understanding to Edison's practical problems. He didn't just improve the generators, he revolutionized them, increasing their efficiency by margins that shouldn't have been possible within the constraints of direct current. His co-workers watched in amazement as Tesla diagnosed problems by sound alone, pressing his ear to a housing and detecting variations in vibration that revealed hidden flaws. He would stand perfectly still, eyes closed, visualizing the flow of current through the machines as clearly as if the copper windings were transparent. The improvements accumulated like compound interest, each small innovation building upon the last, until Edison's generators ran with a smoothness and efficiency that made their original designs seem primitive. The moment of betrayal arrived with the casual cruelty that only comes from those who view trust as weakness. Tesla, exhausted but triumphant, presented his completed work to Edison and mentioned the $50,000 that had been promised. Edison's laughter echoed through the laboratory like breaking glass. "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor," he said, his eyes holding no warmth. "When I said $50,000, that was just a joke. You've got a lot to learn about how we do business here." The other workers avoided Tesla's gaze, their silence confirming what he suddenly understood. He had been used, his genius exploited by a man who saw innovation only as a path to profit. Tesla resigned that day, walking out of Pearl Street Station with empty pockets, but a determination forged in the furnace of betrayal. The winter of 1886 tested Tesla's resolve in ways his comfortable European life had never prepared him for. The man who had redesigned Edison's generators now found himself digging ditches for $2 a day, laying the very electrical cables that carried Edison's inferior direct current through New York's frozen streets. His hands, which could sense electromagnetic fields and draw complex diagrams from memory, blistered and bled as he swung a pickaxe alongside immigrant laborers who couldn't understand why this educated man with his peculiar accent had fallen so low. The irony burned worse than the cold. Every cable he buried represented the technological dead end he knew how to transcend, if only someone would listen. At night, in a boarding house room so small he could touch both walls with outstretched arms, Tesla continued refining his polyphase system designs, working by candlelight because he couldn't afford gas. Salvation arrived through the unlikely combination of a patent attorney who recognized genius and a businessman willing to gamble on the future. Lemuel Sorel had heard about the Serbian inventor who claimed to have solved the problem of alternating current motors, and his legal mind immediately grasped the revolutionary implications. He introduced Tesla to Robert Lane and Benjamin Vail, businessmen who saw opportunity where Edison had seen only threat. Together, they formed the Tesla Electric Company, providing the inventor with a laboratory and the resources to finally build the machines that had existed in his mind since that sunset walk in Budapest. Tesla's hands trembled slightly as he signed the incorporation papers, not from his usual nervous energy, but from the profound relief of finally having the chance to prove his vision. The first public demonstration of Tesla's polyphase system transformed skeptics into believers with the simple elegance of its operation. In a room filled with professors, engineers, and potential investors, Tesla's motor ran without sparks, without brushes, without the mechanical friction that plagued every other electrical motor in existence. The audience fell silent as they watched the smooth rotation powered by invisible magnetic fields that chased each other in perfect synchronization. One professor later wrote that watching Tesla's motor was like seeing a law of nature reveal itself for the first time. The motor ran so quietly that some suspected trickery until Tesla invited them to examine every component, to trace every wire, to confirm that this impossibility was simply the application of principles that had always existed, waiting for the right mind to discover them. George Westinghouse arrived at Tesla's laboratory like a force of nature, his powerful presence filling the modest space as completely as his air brakes had revolutionized railroad safety. The Pittsburgh industrialist had built his fortune by seeing potential where others saw problems, and in Tesla's alternating current system, he recognized the future of electrical power. Their negotiation lasted less than an hour. Westinghouse offered $1 million for Tesla's patents, plus a royalty of $2.50 for every horsepower of electricity sold. Tesla accepted immediately, not for the money itself, but for what it represented: the resources to challenge Edison's direct current monopoly and prove that alternating current could illuminate not just cities, but entire nations. As they shook hands, both men understood they had just declared war on the most powerful inventor in America. The War of Currents began with Edison's desperate campaign to associate alternating current with death itself. The man who had once dismissed Tesla as a poet now revealed himself as a master of public manipulation, staging grotesque demonstrations where animals were electrocuted with alternating current before horrified audiences. Edison personally oversaw these exhibitions, narrating the dangers of Westinghouse electricity while dogs, cats, and eventually horses died in writhing agony. He coined the term electrocution specifically to link alternating current with execution, lobbying for its use in the first electric chair. Tesla watched these displays with a mixture of revulsion and disbelief. The great Thomas Edison, reduced to a carnival barker peddling fear instead of engaging in scientific debate. The corruption of scientific discourse wounded Tesla more deeply than any personal attack. He had believed, with an immigrant's idealism, that in America, truth would triumph through demonstration and logic. Instead, he found himself fighting not with equations and experiments, but with publicity stunts and political influence. Edison's employees spread rumors that alternating current caused insanity, that it would leak from wires and kill children in their sleep, that entire neighborhoods would burst into flames. Newspaper editorials, influenced by Edison's considerable reach, warned against the foreign technology promoted by the dangerous Serbian. Tesla responded the only way he knew how, with demonstrations of such spectacular beauty that they transcended fear-mongering. He passed hundreds of thousands of volts through his own body, standing calm and unharmed, while fluorescent tubes in his hands glowed like captured lightning. The competition to illuminate the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago became the decisive battleground where science would finally triumph over propaganda. Edison's General Electric Company bid $554,000 to light the fair with direct current. Westinghouse, using Tesla's efficient alternating current system, underbid them at $399,000, nearly half the price for superior technology. The contract represented more than profit. It was a public referendum on the future of electricity. When the committee announced Westinghouse and Tesla had won, Edison's representatives argued that alternating current would turn the White City into a death trap. Tesla responded by designing a display that would prove the safety and wonder of his system beyond any doubt. The World's Fair transformed Tesla from inventor to wizard in the public imagination. His personal exhibition space drew larger crowds than any other display as he demonstrated technologies that seemed to violate the laws of nature. Wireless fluorescent bulbs glowed in his hands without any visible connection to power. Model boats navigated a pool, responding to radio commands from a small box, the first public demonstration of remote control. Tesla stood in the center of electrical storms he created and controlled, bolts of artificial lightning dancing around his tall figure while he calmly explained the principles involved. Mark Twain, who became a frequent visitor and friend, wrote that watching Tesla work was like glimpsing the workshop of Zeus. Reporters struggled to describe phenomena that had no precedent. How could they explain wireless power to readers who had barely accepted wired electricity? The illumination of the White City itself provided the most eloquent argument for alternating current. 250,000 incandescent bulbs transformed the fairgrounds into a glowing wonderland that could be seen for miles. The system ran flawlessly throughout the exposition, using a fraction of the fuel that direct current would have required. Visitors marveled at the Cathedral of Light, where Tesla had arranged thousands of bulbs in geometric patterns that created the illusion of infinite depth. More importantly, engineers from around the world studied the transformers and distribution systems that made such widespread illumination possible. They left Chicago understanding that Tesla's polyphase system wasn't just an alternative to Edison's direct current. It was the only technology capable of electrifying entire continents. The Niagara Falls contract, awarded shortly after the World's Fair triumph, vindicated Tesla's vision on the grandest possible scale. Harnessing the power of the falls had been an engineer's dream for decades, but only alternating current could transmit that power the 22 miles to Buffalo and beyond. Tesla's designs for the generators drew on everything he had learned since that moment of revelation in Budapest. The installation would be the largest electrical generating system in the world, proof that alternating current could operate on any scale required. As Tesla refined the plans, he permitted himself a moment of satisfaction. The boy who had watched water wheels in Serbian streams would now harness one of nature's greatest displays of power. Tesla's laboratory on South Fifth Avenue became Manhattan's most exclusive destination for those seeking glimpses of the future. The inventor, always impeccably dressed in white tie and tails, would guide selected visitors through rooms where impossible things happened routinely. Wireless bulbs illuminated at his gesture. Mechanical oscillators vibrated at frequencies that could shatter or strengthen materials. High-frequency currents created fields that made metal objects float in defiance of gravity. His demonstrations were performances, carefully choreographed to inspire wonder while revealing scientific principles. Yet behind the showmanship lay rigorous experimentation. Every effect had been calculated, tested, refined, until it achieved the mathematical perfection Tesla demanded. The inventor's obsession with wireless power transmission intensified as he pushed the boundaries of high-frequency alternating current. In his laboratory, Tesla created electrical fields so powerful that butterfly wings would glow with St. Elmo's fire when brought near his equipment. He discovered that at certain frequencies, electrical current would flow along the surface of conductors rather than through them, dramatically reducing resistance. These experiments convinced him that power could be transmitted through the Earth itself, using the planet as a vast conductor. His notebooks filled with calculations showing how standing waves could be established in the Earth's electrical field, creating zones where power could be drawn freely from the environment. The relationship between Tesla and Westinghouse grew strained as the inventor's visions expanded beyond commercial applications. Westinghouse had invested in alternating current to sell generators and motors to build a profitable electrical empire. Tesla spoke increasingly of providing free power to everyone, of technologies that would eliminate the need for power companies entirely. Their meetings became exercises in mutual frustration. The practical businessman trying to focus on immediate profits, while the visionary inventor described wireless systems that wouldn't require customers to pay for electricity. Westinghouse respected Tesla's genius, but worried that his partner was drifting into fantasies that would bankrupt them both. The financial panic of 1893 brought their conflict to a crisis. Westinghouse's company teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, crushed by the costs of fighting Edison and building alternating current infrastructure. The bankers demanded that Westinghouse eliminate Tesla's royalty agreement, those $2.50 per horsepower payments that would have made the inventor one of the wealthiest men in history. Westinghouse came to Tesla's laboratory, his usual confidence replaced by desperate honesty. Without releasing the royalties, the company would fail, and Edison's direct current would win by default. Tesla listened in silence, understanding that his decision would determine not just his own fortune, but the electrical future of civilization. He took the contract from Westinghouse's hands and tore it to pieces, sacrificing millions of dollars with the simple words, "You believed in me when no one else would. The benefits to humanity are more important than money." The laboratory fire of March 13, 1895, destroyed more than equipment and research. It incinerated years of irreplaceable work that existed nowhere but in Tesla's perfectionist methods. He had refused to patent many discoveries, believing that secrecy protected his ideas better than legal documents. Now, those secrets were ash. Tesla stood in the smoldering ruins at dawn, his usually immaculate clothes stained with soot, staring at the twisted metal that had been precision instruments. His assistants expected despair, perhaps even a breakdown given his emotional intensity. Instead, they witnessed transformation. Tesla's eyes held not defeat, but determination. "I have lost apparatus," he said quietly, "but not knowledge. Everything important is still here." He tapped his temple. "And now I know what not to waste time on." His experiments with X-rays, begun even before Röntgen's announcement, produced images of unprecedented clarity. Tesla's understanding of high-frequency currents allowed him to generate X-rays more efficiently and safely than any contemporary researcher. He photographed the human body in detail that revealed not just bones, but soft tissues, creating images that physicians called miraculous. Yet Tesla published little, more interested in understanding the phenomenon than claiming credit. He discovered that certain frequencies were more penetrating, while others were absorbed by specific materials, laying groundwork for medical imaging techniques that wouldn't be fully developed for decades. His X-ray photographs of Mark Twain, showing the writer's skull and the coins in his pocket with equal clarity, demonstrated a mastery of the technology that surpassed even its original discoverer. The discovery that high-frequency alternating current could flow through the human body without harm opened entirely new avenues of investigation. Tesla would stand before audiences, touching one terminal of a high-voltage transformer while holding a glowing bulb in his free hand, his body completing the circuit. The sight of electricity flowing visibly through a human being without causing injury shattered conventional understanding of electrical danger. Tesla explained that at frequencies above certain thresholds, electrical current flowed along the surface of conductors, including human skin, rather than through the interior where vital organs could be damaged. These demonstrations weren't mere spectacle. They proved fundamental principles about the behavior of alternating current that would later enable technologies from radio to medical diathermy. His growing isolation became apparent to the few who still had access to Tesla's private world. The inventor who had once charmed New York society now declined most invitations, preferring the company of his electrical apparatus to human conversation. His compulsions intensified. Beyond his obsession with the number 3, he now required 18 napkins at every meal, arranged in 6 stacks of 3. He developed a horror of round objects, particularly pearls, that made dining with women wearing jewelry impossible. His germophobia reached extremes that required him to have a new pair of gloves for every visitor he was forced to shake hands with. Yet these eccentricities seemed connected to his electrical sensitivity, as if the same nervous system that could sense electromagnetic fields others couldn't perceive was overwhelmed by ordinary human contact. The price of his gifts grew steeper with each passing year, leaving him increasingly alone with visions of wireless wonders that only he could see. The lightning that had haunted Tesla's childhood dreams now danced at his command in the thin mountain air of Colorado Springs. His laboratory, built on the prairie east of town, rose like a wooden cathedral dedicated to electricity, its 80-foot tower crowned with a copper ball that gleamed in the harsh sunlight. Inside, the massive Tesla coil dominated the space, a transformer of such unprecedented scale that local residents crossed themselves when they passed, whispering about the foreign wizard who planned to steal God's thunder. Tesla stood before his creation with the reverence of a priest at an altar, understanding that this remote outpost would either validate his vision of wireless power or expose him as the madman his critics claimed. The first night of full-power testing transformed the Colorado sky into Tesla's canvas. As he threw the switch, artificial lightning erupted from the tower's apex, branching across the darkness in patterns that mimicked yet surpassed nature's own displays. The bolts stretched over 100 feet, their thunder rolling across the plains like the footsteps of giants. Tesla watched from behind specially designed shields, his notebook balanced on his knee as he recorded observations with the calm precision of a botanist cataloging flowers. The lightning wasn't random. He could predict each bolt's path, control its intensity, direct its flow through mathematical adjustments that proved electricity's obedience to discoverable laws. His assistants, brave men who had followed him from New York, pressed themselves against the laboratory walls, simultaneously terrified and mesmerized by their employer's ability to orchestrate chaos. The breakthrough came not through the spectacular aerial displays, but through the Earth itself. Tesla had theorized that the planet could serve as a vast conductor, that electrical waves could travel through the ground as easily as sound waves through air. His first successful test sent shivers through his tall frame, more powerful than any electrical current. 25 miles from his laboratory, in a field where he had planted hundreds of light bulbs connected only to grounding rods, the bulbs began to glow. No wires connected them to any power source, no visible means of transmission existed, yet they shone with steady light, powered by waves traveling through the earth from his Colorado Springs transmitter. Tesla knelt in that distant field, touching the glowing bulbs with trembling fingers, understanding that he had just demonstrated a principle that could transform human civilization. His notebooks from this period read like communications from another realm of consciousness. "The earth is alive with electrical fire," he wrote in his precise script. "I have learned to speak its language, to harmonize with its natural frequencies. The planet itself is a dynamo of unimaginable power, waiting only for humanity to discover the proper means of tapping its energy." His observations went beyond the purely technical, venturing into territories that made his few scientific correspondents uncomfortable. He described sensing the Earth's electrical heartbeat, feeling the pulse of underground currents, detecting patterns in atmospheric electricity that suggested a global circulation system as complex as ocean currents. These weren't the fantasies of an overwrought imagination, but the documented observations of a nervous system so finely tuned to electrical phenomena that it could perceive what no instruments of the era could measure. The discovery of the Earth's resonant frequency emerged from months of patient experimentation. Tesla varied the frequency of his transmissions, searching for the sweet spot where the planet itself would ring like a bell struck by an electrical hammer. When he found it, approximately 8 hertz, the results exceeded even his ambitious expectations. Electrical waves launched from his transmitter circled the globe and returned to their origin, creating standing waves that could be tapped at any point on the Earth's surface. He demonstrated this by placing light bulbs at calculated distances from his laboratory, each one glowing at predictable intervals as the waves passed. The implications staggered him. A handful of transmission stations, properly positioned and tuned, could provide wireless power to the entire planet. No more power lines scarring landscapes, no more coal smoke darkening cities, just clean electrical energy drawn from the Earth's own field. The radio signals from space arrived like whispers from the cosmos, detected by equipment so sensitive it could register electrical disturbances from thunderstorms thousands of miles away. Tesla was adjusting his receivers late one night when he noticed a pattern in the static that made his pulse quicken. 3 distinct pulses, followed by a pause, then repeated. The mathematical precision couldn't be natural. He checked and rechecked his equipment, eliminated all possible terrestrial sources, and concluded with characteristic certainty that he was receiving communications from another world. "Mars is signaling," he announced to skeptical reporters, his reputation for eccentric statements overshadowing the genuine phenomenon he had discovered. Modern scientists recognize these signals as natural radio emissions from cosmic sources, but Tesla's detection of them, decades before radio astronomy existed, demonstrated the unprecedented sensitivity of his equipment. His artificial lightning grew more spectacular and controlled with each passing month. Tesla learned to create specific types of electrical discharge: sheet lightning that spread across the sky like luminous curtains, ball lightning that rolled across the laboratory floor with eerie persistence, and focused bolts that he could direct with the precision of a conductor's baton. Local newspapers reported these displays with a mixture of pride and alarm, describing nights when the prairie glowed with unearthly light and the air itself seemed to vibrate with power. Horses bolted from stables miles away, their shoes sparking against the ground. Miners working night shifts reported seeing their picks glow with St. Elmo's fire. The boundary between Tesla's laboratory and the surrounding environment dissolved as his experiments affected ever larger areas. The successful wireless illumination of 200 light bulbs arranged in a field 26 miles from the laboratory marked the culmination of his Colorado Springs work. Tesla had invited witnesses for this demonstration, including several skeptical professors from Colorado College. They watched in stunned silence as he activated his transmitter and the distant field bloomed with light, each bulb glowing without any visible connection to a power source. One professor later wrote that witnessing Tesla's demonstration was like watching the first fire being kindled by prehistoric humans, a fundamental breakthrough that would reshape civilization. Tesla himself showed little emotion during the test, making minute adjustments to his equipment and recording data, but his assistants noticed his hands trembling slightly as he fine-tuned the frequency. The vision he had carried since Budapest was no longer theoretical. Wireless power transmission was proven reality. His letters to potential investors during this period revealed both his genius and his tragic inability to think in commercial terms. While men like Marconi focused on wireless telegraphy, sending dots and dashes that could be monetized through message fees, Tesla envisioned a complete transformation of human society. His world wireless system would transmit not just messages but power, eliminating the need for fuel in homes and factories. Ships would draw energy from the atmosphere, their engines running on electricity pulled from the air. Farmers in remote areas would have the same access to power as city dwellers. The democratic implications of his technology consumed him. Free energy would eliminate one of the fundamental inequalities between rich and poor, developed and undeveloped regions. His correspondence grew increasingly evangelical, speaking less of profits and more of human liberation through technology. The Earth's electrical properties revealed themselves to Tesla like a slowly opening book written in the language of frequencies and resonances. He discovered that certain frequencies traveled through the ground with virtually no loss, while others dissipated rapidly. He mapped these invisible highways of conductivity, understanding that the planet's crust wasn't uniform but contained channels where electrical waves flowed more freely. His experiments with ground currents revealed that moisture content, mineral composition, and even time of day affected transmission efficiency. This wasn't abstract knowledge, but practical information that would guide the placement of his planned wireless stations. Tesla spoke of the Earth as an electrical engineer might discuss a circuit board, seeing beneath the surface to the conductive pathways that connected all points on the globe. His radio-controlled boat demonstrations in the artificial lake he had constructed showcased another facet of his wireless vision. The small vessel responded to commands sent through the air, turning, stopping, and even flashing lights in response to Tesla's control box. Visitors struggled to understand what they were seeing. A machine that obeyed human commands without any physical connection seemed to violate fundamental assumptions about cause and effect. Tesla patiently explained the principles of tuned circuits and selective reception, but most observers left convinced they had witnessed magic rather than science. He saw these demonstrations as mere toys compared to the potential applications: wireless control of factories, vehicles, even aircraft that hadn't yet been invented. His notebook sketched systems where a single operator could control dozens of machines simultaneously, automation that wouldn't become reality for another century. The strain of continuous experimentation began affecting Tesla's already fragile health. His assistants found him collapsed beside his equipment more than once, pushed beyond exhaustion by sessions that lasted 40 hours or more. His diet, always minimal, dwindled to bread and milk as he begrudged every moment spent away from his apparatus. The isolation of Colorado Springs, initially chosen for its electrical properties, began to weigh on a mind that needed the stimulation of intellectual peers. His letters to friends in New York grew increasingly abstract, filled with descriptions of electrical phenomena that read more like poetry than scientific correspondence. Yet his experimental results remained rigorously documented. Every measurement recorded, every observation verified through repetition. The moment Tesla detected the Earth's stationary waves marked a turning point in his understanding of global wireless transmission. By sending powerful electrical impulses into the ground and carefully measuring their return, he discovered that the planet had specific modes of electrical vibration, like a guitar string that resonates at certain frequencies. These stationary waves created zones of high and low electrical potential at predictable distances from the transmission point. Tesla realized that by establishing transmitters at calculated locations, he could create a global grid of standing waves that would make wireless power available anywhere on Earth. A receiver properly tuned could draw power from these waves as easily as a radio receives signals. His calculations showed that a surprisingly small number of transmission stations, perhaps as few as 5, could provide worldwide coverage. His successful transatlantic wireless transmission preceded Marconi's famous demonstration, though Tesla's achievement received less publicity. Using his Colorado Springs transmitter, he sent signals that were detected by equipment he had previously installed in Paris. The transmission wasn't just dots and dashes, but complex waveforms that could carry voice and even images, though the technology to decode such signals didn't yet exist. Tesla's approach differed fundamentally from Marconi's. While the Italian inventor focused on practical communication, Tesla saw wireless transmission as a unified phenomenon that could carry both information and power. His patents from this period describe systems that anticipate not just radio but television, radar, and even wireless computer networks. The financial realities that would doom his grandest ambitions began intruding even amid his Colorado Springs triumphs. His equipment consumed enormous amounts of power, occasionally overloading the local generating station and plunging the town into darkness. The Colorado Springs Electric Company, initially supportive, grew alarmed at Tesla's escalating demands and the complaints from other customers. His rent on the laboratory fell into arrears as he spent every available dollar on copper wire and specialized components. Letters from creditors in New York reminded him that genius alone couldn't pay bills. Yet Tesla continued his experiments with the single-minded focus of a man who knew he was racing against time to prove concepts that might otherwise die with him. The principles of resonance that Tesla explored went beyond electrical applications. He discovered that mechanical vibrations at specific frequencies could shatter objects or strengthen them, that acoustic waves could be focused and directed like light, that even biological systems responded to certain frequencies in predictable ways. His oscillator experiments demonstrated these principles dramatically. A small device no larger than an alarm clock could shake an entire building when tuned to the structure's resonant frequency. Tesla's understanding of resonance as a universal principle influenced his thinking about everything from earthquake prediction to medical treatment. He spoke of a future where doctors would heal with frequencies instead of drugs, where buildings would be designed to resist earthquakes through harmonic engineering. His documentation of the relationship between electrical frequency and transmission efficiency established principles that still guide modern electrical engineering. Tesla discovered that higher frequencies allowed for more efficient power transmission, but required more precise tuning between transmitter and receiver. He developed mathematical formulas that predicted exactly how much power would be lost over a given distance at a specific frequency, calculations that proved accurate when tested decades later with modern equipment. His work established the theoretical foundation for everything from power grids to cell phone networks, though few of his contemporaries understood the implications. Tesla's notebooks from Colorado Springs contain insights that researchers still study, finding anticipations of technologies that seemed impossible at the time. The wireless transmission of power to light those 200 bulbs 26 miles away represented more than a technical achievement. It was proof that Tesla's vision of a world transformed by wireless technology was achievable. He had demonstrated that electrical power could be transmitted without loss through the Earth itself, that the planet could serve as both conductor and reservoir of electrical energy. His calculations showed that this method of transmission would actually become more efficient over longer distances, as the standing waves reinforced themselves through resonance. The commercial implications were staggering. Power generated at Niagara Falls could light homes in California. Arctic settlements could receive electricity from tropical generating stations. Ships at sea could run on power drawn from the atmosphere. Tesla's ability to generate and control electrical forces that dwarfed nature's own displays gave him an almost godlike status among the few who witnessed his full-power experiments. He could create indoor thunderstorms, generate ball lightning that persisted for minutes, and produce electrical fields so intense that fluorescent bulbs would glow when brought within 100 feet of his laboratory. Yet, This mastery came with profound understanding of electricity's dangers. His safety protocols, developed through painful experience, kept his assistants alive despite working with voltages that could instantly kill. Tesla's respect for electrical force grew with his ability to control it, leading to philosophical reflections on humanity's relationship with natural powers that science was only beginning to comprehend. The attention of J.P. Morgan, America's most powerful financier, arrived like an electrical surge that promised to transform Tesla's visions into reality. Morgan had built his fortune by recognizing revolutionary technologies before his competitors, and Tesla's wireless demonstrations convinced him that another such opportunity had arrived. Their correspondence began with Morgan's cautious interest in wireless telegraphy, a proven technology with clear commercial applications. But as Tesla described his broader vision of wireless power transmission, of a world where energy flowed as freely as information, Morgan's interest intensified. Here was a technology that could render obsolete every power company, every electrical utility, every coal-fired generating station. The man who controlled wireless power would control the foundation of industrial civilization. Tesla's return from Colorado Springs to New York in January 1900 marked the end of pure research and the beginning of his attempt to transform experimental success into commercial reality. He carried with him notebooks filled with designs for a world wireless system that would dwarf anything previously imagined. His equipment, carefully packed and shipped by rail, included components for transmitters that could reach any point on the globe. The isolation of Colorado Springs had given him proof, but implementation would require resources only available in the financial capital of America. As his train crossed the plains he had illuminated with wireless power, Tesla gazed out at the endless lines of telegraph poles and imagined a world where such ugly necessities would vanish, replaced by invisible waves carrying both messages and energy through the earth and sky. The future he envisioned was no longer a dream, but a blueprint waiting to be built, requiring only the vision and capital to make it reality. The towering structure rose from Long Island's sandy soil like a monument to dreams made manifest, its distinctive mushroom cap piercing the sky at nearly 200 feet. Wardenclyffe Tower represented everything Tesla had envisioned during those lightning-filled nights in Colorado Springs, but magnified to a scale that would serve not just demonstrations, but the entire world. As he watched construction crews bolt together the massive wooden framework in the spring of 1901, Tesla allowed himself to believe that J.P. Morgan's backing would finally transform his wireless vision into humanity's new reality. The tower would be merely the first node in a global network, each station harmonizing with Earth's natural frequencies to create an invisible web of power and communication that would unite civilization as never before. Morgan's initial investment of $150,000 had seemed generous, even magnificent, when Tesla first grasped the financier's hand in agreement. But as Wardenclyffe took shape, consuming steel and copper with an appetite that matched Tesla's ambitions, the inventor realized how badly he had underestimated both costs and his patrons' expectations. Morgan believed he was funding an improved wireless telegraph system to compete with Marconi's successful transatlantic transmissions. Tesla saw telegraphy as merely the beginning, a trivial application of principles that could revolutionize human existence. In his laboratory beneath the Great Tower, he installed equipment designed not just to send messages, but to transmit power itself, to light cities wirelessly, to control machines across oceans, to synchronize clocks worldwide with atomic precision. Each component he added stretched Morgan's investment thinner while expanding the project's scope beyond what any financier could comprehend. The technical challenges of Wardenclyffe pushed Tesla's genius to its limits, demanding solutions to problems no engineer had previously encountered. The tower's distinctive dome wasn't architectural fancy, but a carefully calculated terminal designed to minimize electrical losses while maximizing transmission range. Beneath the visible structure, Tesla drove pipes deep into the earth, creating a grounding system that would allow the planet itself to become part of his circuit. He discovered that Long Island's water table provided ideal conductivity, that the sandy soil could be improved with saltwater injections, that the tower's height needed precise adjustment to match the wavelength of his intended transmissions. His notebooks filled with calculations that balanced electrical efficiency against mechanical stability, seeking the perfect compromise between the ideal and the achievable. The laboratory hummed with possibilities that visitors found both thrilling and disturbing. Tesla's assistant, George Scherf, watched in amazement as his employer demonstrated wireless power transmission within the facility, lighting banks of bulbs with no visible connections. But these local demonstrations were mere rehearsals for the global performance Tesla envisioned. He spoke of ships navigating by wireless beacon, their engines powered by energy drawn from the atmosphere. He described factories running without fuel costs, homes heated and lit by wireless power, a world where energy inequality would vanish because the Earth itself would serve as humanity's generator. His enthusiasm was infectious, drawing talented engineers who accepted minimal pay for the privilege of working at the frontier of electrical science. Morgan's growing skepticism arrived in carefully worded letters that questioned expenses and timelines with increasing sharpness. The financier had built his empire by controlling resources, by ensuring that every investment returned profits he could measure and monopolize. Tesla's vision of free wireless power represented the antithesis of Morgan's business philosophy. How could one profit from energy that anyone could access with simple receiving equipment? Their correspondence revealed a fundamental disconnect between the inventor's humanitarian dreams and the financier's commercial expectations. Tesla tried to emphasize the communication aspects, the profitable applications, but his passion for wireless power transmission leaked through every carefully crafted paragraph. He couldn't hide his true vision any more than he could stop breathing. The moment Morgan discovered Tesla's full intentions marked the beginning of Wardenclyffe's doom. The financier's fury at being misled, as he saw it, manifested in the immediate cessation of funding. Tesla's desperate letters explaining how wireless power would create new industries, how the controllers of transmission stations would wield unprecedented influence, fell on deaf ears. Morgan's terse response became infamous. "I am not investing in a philanthropic enterprise." The cutoff was absolute, leaving Tesla with a half-completed tower, rooms full of custom equipment, and debts that mounted daily. Construction crews departed unpaid. Suppliers demanded payment for delivered materials, and the great tower stood silent against the sky like an abandoned cathedral. Tesla's attempts to find alternative funding revealed how thoroughly Morgan's influence permeated American finance. Other potential investors, initially intrigued by Wardenclyffe's possibilities, withdrew after discreet warnings from Morgan's associates. The inventor, who had torn up royalties worth millions to save Westinghouse, now found himself begging for thousands to complete his masterwork. He offered demonstrations to prove his system's viability, but even successful tests couldn't overcome the financial community's fear of crossing Morgan. Tesla's reputation shifted from genius to dreamer, from visionary to impractical idealist who couldn't deliver commercial returns. The same newspapers that had celebrated his electrical wizardry now questioned his sanity, suggesting that his obsession with wireless power was evidence of mental decline. The abandonment of Wardenclyffe broke something fundamental in Tesla's spirit, though his mind remained as sharp as ever. He continued visiting the site, walking through empty laboratories where dust gathered on equipment that had once danced with electrical life. The tower stood against the sky like a monument to unrealized potential, its wooden framework beginning to weather, its copper fittings tarnishing in the salt air. Tesla would stand at its base for hours, perhaps recalculating transmission equations, perhaps simply mourning the future that would never arrive. Local residents reported seeing lights in the abandoned facility at night, hearing the distinctive hum of electrical equipment, though the power had long been disconnected. Whether Tesla managed secret experiments or these were merely echoes of past glory remains unknown. Financial ruin forced Tesla from his luxurious lifestyle into increasingly modest circumstances. The inventor who had dined with society's elite now lived in a succession of hotels, moving when unpaid bills accumulated beyond negotiation. Yet his personal poverty couldn't diminish his intellectual wealth. In cramped rooms, he continued developing theories that wouldn't be validated for decades. His work on particle beam weapons, sensationalized as death rays by the press, actually anticipated laser technology. His writings on radar detection described systems that would prove crucial in World War II. His vision of wireless information networks outlined principles that would eventually become the Internet. Poverty freed him from commercial pressures, allowing his imagination to roam territories that profitable research couldn't explore. The peculiarities that had always marked Tesla's behavior intensified with age and isolation. His devotion to pigeons became legendary, particularly his attachment to a specific white bird he claimed understood his thoughts. Hotel staff learned to accommodate his need for precisely arranged items, his requirement that room numbers be divisible by 3, his insistence on dining alone with 18 napkins arranged in 6 groups. Yet these eccentricities accompanied continued brilliance. Tesla's late interviews revealed a mind still crackling with insights about energy, frequency, and the hidden patterns governing natural phenomena. He spoke of concepts that seemed mystical to contemporaries, but would later prove scientifically sound: the idea that matter and energy were interchangeable, that the universe operated on harmonic principles, that information could be encoded in electromagnetic waves. Recognition of Tesla's foundational contributions came slowly, often grudgingly, from an electrical industry built on his innovations while forgetting their creator. The alternating current system he championed powered the entire developed world, carrying electricity across continents through grids that followed his polyphase principles. Every electric motor incorporated his discovery of rotating magnetic fields. Radio technology depended on his patents for tuned circuits. X-ray machines used configurations he had pioneered. Yet Tesla lived his final years in obscurity, supported by a modest pension from the Yugoslav government and occasional gifts from admirers who remembered his contributions. The contrast between his poverty and the wealth his inventions generated for others would have been tragic if Tesla himself had valued money. Instead, he seemed satisfied knowing his ideas had transformed civilization, even if civilization had forgotten him. The vindication of Tesla's wireless communication vision arrived through technologies he had described but never lived to see implemented. Radio became the first proof, carrying voices and music through the air exactly as he had demonstrated decades earlier. Television followed, transmitting images wirelessly, as Tesla had predicted in patents filed when motion pictures were still novelties. Radar detected objects at distance using principles Tesla had outlined in papers dismissed as fantastic. Each development validated aspects of his wireless system, though implemented piecemeal rather than as the unified network he had envisioned. The Internet finally realized his dream of global information exchange, though through cables and satellites rather than the terrestrial resonance he had preferred. Modern physics confirmed theoretical insights Tesla had expressed in language that seemed mystical to his contemporaries. His description of cosmic rays proved accurate when detection equipment became sufficiently sensitive. His ideas about the relationship between matter and energy anticipated aspects of quantum mechanics. His conviction that the universe operated on harmonic principles found expression in string theory. Tesla had perceived truths about reality's fundamental nature through intuition and experimentation, reaching conclusions that rigorous mathematics would later verify. His approach, visualizing solutions before calculating them, represented a different path to scientific truth, one that valued insight above formalism. The transformation of Tesla, from forgotten inventor to cultural icon, began decades after his death, as historians recognized how thoroughly his innovations shaped the modern world. Museums displayed his equipment with the reverence usually reserved for artistic masterpieces. His notebooks, studied by engineers and physicists, revealed ideas still awaiting implementation. Tesla coils became standard equipment in science classrooms, introducing students to electrical principles through the same spectacular displays that had amazed his contemporaries. His name adorned everything from rock bands to electric cars, becoming synonymous with innovation and electrical mastery. The man who had died in obscurity achieved the immortality that matters to true inventors. His ideas lived on, continuing to inspire and enable human progress. Wardenclyffe's demolition in 1917, sold for scrap to pay Tesla's debts, seemed to end his dream of wireless power transmission. Yet researchers continue pursuing his vision with technologies he couldn't have imagined. Wireless charging for phones and vehicles uses principles Tesla demonstrated. Proposals for space-based solar power stations would beam energy to Earth using methods he outlined. Experiments with terrestrial resonance seek to validate his claims about Earth's electrical properties. Each advancement brings humanity closer to the wireless future Tesla envisioned, though implemented through different means than his tower on Long Island. The dream persists because the need remains, a world where energy flows as freely as information, where power belongs to all humanity, rather than those who control its sources. Tesla's influence on subsequent inventors and scientists extended beyond his specific technologies to his approach to innovation itself. He demonstrated that breakthrough discoveries often required thinking beyond accepted paradigms, that intuition and visualization could complement calculation and experiment. His willingness to pursue seemingly impossible goals inspired generations of researchers to attempt what conventional wisdom deemed impossible. The transistor, the laser, the microchip, all emerged from minds willing to imagine beyond current limitations, following Tesla's example of envisioning the future and then creating it. His greatest invention may have been the idea that individual genius, properly directed, could transform civilization. The medical applications of Tesla's high-frequency current research evolved into treatments he had predicted but never developed. Diathermy used his discoveries to provide deep tissue heating for therapeutic purposes. Electrical stimulation helped paralyzed muscles maintain tone. Cardiac pacemakers regulated heartbeats using principles Tesla had explored. His observation that specific frequencies affected biological systems differently opened entire fields of medical research. Modern electromagnetic therapy, controversial but increasingly validated, builds on Tesla's conviction that electrical fields influence living organisms in ways traditional medicine was only beginning to understand. His notebooks contain observations about frequency and healing that researchers still investigate, finding insights that anticipated discoveries made with far more sophisticated equipment. Popular culture embraced Tesla as the archetype of the misunderstood genius, the inventor whose ideas outpaced his era's ability to implement them. Films, novels, and documentaries portrayed him as wizard and prophet, emphasizing his eccentricities while celebrating his achievements. This mythologizing sometimes obscured the real man, the dedicated experimenter who tested every hypothesis, the careful observer who documented each result, the practical engineer who built working devices from theoretical principles. Yet the popular image captured an essential truth. Tesla had perceived possibilities that seemed magical to his contemporaries, but became mundane reality for their descendants. His story reminded humanity that today's impossibility might be tomorrow's necessity. The continuing evolution of Tesla's ideas in modern technology vindicated his approach to invention. His polyphase system didn't just power motors, it enabled the entire structure of modern electrical distribution. His wireless patents didn't just permit radio, they established principles used in everything from Wi-Fi to GPS. His high-frequency research didn't just create spectacular displays, it opened pathways to medical imaging, industrial heating, and scientific instrumentation. Each application built on foundations Tesla had laid, often in directions he hadn't anticipated but would have understood. His true legacy lay not in specific devices, but in ways of thinking about electrical phenomena that continued generating innovations long after his death. As the 21st century advanced, Tesla's vision of wireless power transmission moved from fantasy toward feasibility. Researchers at MIT successfully transmitted power across rooms using magnetic resonance. Companies developed charging pads that powered devices without cables. Engineers proposed networks of wireless power transmitters that could eliminate batteries from small devices. Each advancement seemed to whisper Tesla's name, acknowledging the prophet who had seen these possibilities when electricity itself was barely understood. The technical challenges remained formidable, the efficiency questions unresolved, but the direction was clear. Toward the wireless future Tesla had glimpsed from his tower on Long Island. The final measure of Tesla's impact came not through monuments or museums, but through the invisible fields of energy surrounding modern life. Every time alternating current flowed through power lines, Tesla's polyphase system carried it efficiently across vast distances. Every wireless signal, from radio to cellular, used principles he had discovered and patented. Every MRI machine scanning for disease employed magnetic fields he had first generated. His inventions became so fundamental to technological civilization that they disappeared into the background, as essential and unnoticed as breathing. Tesla had achieved the inventor's ultimate success. His creations became so necessary that humanity couldn't imagine existence without them. The boy who spoke to lightning grew into a man who gave humanity the power to harness it, yet died feeding pigeons in a hotel room, forgotten by the world he had illuminated. As we've traced Tesla's path from those storm-filled Serbian mountains to the abandoned tower on Long Island, we've witnessed genius colliding with the harsh realities of a world not yet ready for such revolutionary visions. His story echoes through every flip of a light switch, every wireless signal crossing the globe, every motor turning in perfect synchronization with his rotating magnetic fields. Perhaps what strikes deepest is not the spectacular inventions, but the profound loneliness of a mind that operated in dimensions others couldn't perceive. Tesla sacrificed fortune, companionship, even his sanity's edge, driven by visions of a transformed humanity that only he could fully see. When he tore up those royalty contracts worth millions, when he watched Wardenclyffe crumble while knowing it could have freed humanity from energy poverty, he demonstrated that true genius often means choosing humanity's future over personal gain. The invisible fields of energy surrounding us right now, the Wi-Fi carrying these words, the alternating current powering your device, the radio waves dancing through the air, all whisper Tesla's name in frequencies only the heart can hear. He didn't just discover how to move electricity, he revealed that the universe itself speaks in electrical languages, that matter and energy dance to mathematical music, that what seems like empty space thrums with infinite potential waiting to be unlocked. As you prepare to drift into sleep's gentle current, consider following the Discovery Diaries for more journeys into the minds that shaped our world. Subscribe now, and let these tales of discovery become part of your nightly ritual of wonder and rest. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine young Nikola in that mountain village, watching lightning split the sky while sensing secrets in its flash. Picture him in his laboratory, surrounded by dancing bolts he commanded like a conductor leading an electrical symphony. Feel the vibration of possibilities he felt, the certainty that nature's most powerful forces could be understood, harnessed, given freely to all humanity. His legacy surrounds you even now in the darkness, invisible waves of energy that he first imagined, then created, then gave to a world that would only later understand the magnitude of his gift. Let his story carry you into dreams where impossible things shimmer just beyond the edge of perception, waiting for the next dreamer brave enough to make them real.